also a lot of studying. I have a huge list of reading material, and I tell them you need to be spending hours a day reading all this stuff.
I think Reuben has really hit on something important. There is no avenue for the regular inspector to get this kind of training. There just is none.
None.
I'm Gary Smith, and we're in the house bringing you fresh perspectives on the latest inspection news and events. Today I'm here with Reuben Saltzman, Charles Buell, Christopher Murphy. Reuben and Chris operate a multi-inspector company, and Charles and I operate single inspection companies. Today we're here talking about operating a multi-inspector firm or company. Thank you for joining us in our Sunday open mic show. The first thing that you want to have in any company, in any business, is enough money to do it. So I would think that the first thing a guy or gal or folks want to think about when they're talking about going from a one-man show to a multi-inspector firm would be budget. So guys, you want to share with us a few tips on how to prepare your company to bring on new guys? You're going to be thinking of a new baseline budget. Is that right?
Yeah, whenever I first did it, I didn't have much of a budget. I just winged it, but I learned over time that it did cost me a lot of money, especially for my first guy. And then you also have to plan to fail because whenever I failed twice, and it cost me around $15,000 after I added it up. So yes, definitely a budget.
Yeah, when obviously the toughest part is going to be going from 1 to 2, 2 to 3. Once you have a handful of inspectors on board, adding on that next trainee isn't nearly as painful. But just initially, that's going to be the toughest part. And, I know that there's going to be some people who don't like this stance at all. I've heard people say, you do what I'm about to tell you to do, and all you're doing is training your next competitor, and they're going to be gone because you're going to teach them to do it on their own. Right. But what we did when I first started is, and I was the third inspector on the team. I'm now the owner, but when I first started, my dad was the owner, and I would start answering the phones. I would have the schedule in one hand. I'd have the office phone forwarded to my mobile phone, and I would answer phones, and that's how I earned my keep. I would do all the scheduling, and I'd be along learning inspections. If the phone would ring, I'd go grab it, and that was the paid assistant. That's how I trained. And when we brought our next inspector on,
we're moving into that. You kind of mentioned, bring on 2. It's a little bit cheaper. So where do you see levels of like 2 would cost X amount, or is it cheaper to have 10 than having 3 per inspector? Have you got it broken down that way in a budget? I mean, if the listeners want to know, what can I budget per inspector? Is there such?
No, you just kind of want to have a backup nest egg. I've always noticed. I mean, like, something's going to fail. Someone will make a mistake. It's just bound to happen, especially if you have so many bodies moving in the field. And what I've noticed is just you want even an office manager too as well. So I've noticed right at 3, it just starts to get really hectic. You can manage by yourself 1, 2, and 3. You're okay. So if you want to run a multi-inspector team and have their phone and stuff, you're okay at 3. But if you go across 3, you need a budget for that office manager. Right. And your wife, family, that's great. But if you don't have that, you need to pay someone well, train them, and have a competitive salary so they stay. That's the most important thing whenever you're running your company. After 3, you have all the paperwork for all the guys, all their education. You have the phones. I mean, it gets pretty crazy.
So volume equals headaches, but it also equals profit. Obviously, you wouldn't be considering running a multi-inspector firm. Reuben, what's your motivation to even do that? You were, both of you guys grew up in an atmosphere where you had your dad in there kind of helping and running the show. So, but if you were to look at what motivates someone to want to be a multi-inspector firm, what would you think would be one of the important factors, Reuben?
I think seeing a need for different inspections. I mean, this has been our reason for wanting to grow. Is I thought that inspections could be done better than what everybody else had been doing. I thought that the status quo could certainly change. It could be improved. And I said, we'll take a gamble on this. And it's not as though our end goal was to be a huge company. The whole goal was just to do better inspections, and it got business. People
in that same thought pattern or thought path, when you hire someone, you have the opportunity to now hire someone that is sort of like Charles and I has a background, heavy construction background, and he may be the guy that you would want to do your new inspections, maybe your new construction inspections. You have the opportunity to bring on a guy that has a heavy energy background that might want to be your go-to guy for energy related stuff. Does that come into play?
I'm thinking of exactly who those people are on my team. Absolutely. That's not why they got hired, but it's like, hey, here's your skill set. You're the most talented when it comes to this.
Right. And so when it comes to competing in your local against maybe a one or one guy, because I mean multi, once you got more than one, you're in the multi deal. So one of the advantages to hiring your company, if I'm going to call you and I'm going to consider your company a multi-inspector firm versus a one-man show, you have inspectors who can offer different facets, and maybe they do that more often and are more specialized. Would that be fair to say?
Can I,
Charles, go ahead.
I think it's a little similar to how agents pick different inspectors for different clients.
There you go. Yeah.
They know this guy is good with newbies. This guy is good with guys that are belligerent. This guy is going to be better for a client that is super, super anal. This happens all the time. I don't see
Can you fulfill that, Reuben? In your market, do agents ask for different inspectors based on the client that they have?
I don't think most of them do. For us, they request the company. We have our inspectors who get requested every time. The agents just love them and they want to work with absolutely one person and that's it, or maybe these three and that's it. But I don't think they change inspectors based on the house.
Gotcha.
Maybe the super savviest of them do and don't tell me about it, but that's definitely a minority. Typically, they're going for the company.
I would see that being more something that would happen with sole proprietors. They're going to be more known for their individual quirks than perhaps what Reuben runs into. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When it comes to motivation, though, I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur, I just don't know any other way. So I don't really have a motivation when it comes to it. I just really enjoy doing home inspections. I love the environment. I love the chaos that comes along with it. So you have to enjoy that constant chaotic environment if you want to approach something like that.
So the challenges, you seem to be fit for the challenges that come with that type of atmosphere, that type of work environment. Guys, talk to us about training your inspectors. How do you set that up, Reuben? How do you bring them into the fold?
I start my inspectors by shadowing the senior inspectors, 2 inspections a day, every day, and they go out and we pay them $120 a day, and they follow along for about a month or 2 before they start typing reports on their own. And then I cut them down to 1 inspection a day, and they're responsible for typing up that report. And it usually ends up taking them about 4 to 5 hours to type up the first few reports that they're doing. So that's what they're doing for the second half of the day. And they write it up, they send it over to the senior inspector who is leading that inspection. That inspector in the beginning is going to rip that report to shreds and give them a lot of feedback on what the report should have looked like. They'll make the changes and send it out to the client. And eventually that new inspector writes better and better reports. And once they get to the point where they can write an error-free report, maybe not beautiful, maybe not everything's worded exactly the way I would have worded it, but it's at the point where it's acceptable. There's no errors in it. That's the point at which they can go out on their own. Usually takes around 4 months or so for me to get them out.
So go ahead, Charles.
I was just saying, I wish mine could go out error-free.
I'm sure you don't have errors in your reports. I'm talking about if it's a 3-tab shingle, don't call it architectural.
Right. No, but I just warn my clients that look, there will be typos.
Yeah,
there
sure.
will be grammar issues. Anything of significance should be reported back to correction. But,
yeah. So Reuben, so that you got a new guy that comes in, he's not even thinking about writing reports for the first 30 or 40 inspections.
That's right.
I mean, it's not even in his periphery. He is moving through this path, and he is not even concerned about writing a report. He's focused on what his training in the field.
That's right.
And then at that point, once you feel like that he's mastered that and can understand that, you add another layer of responsibility on, and that would be report writing.
Yeah, and that's the actual training that they go on with us. And you say 30 to 40, that's really conservative. 40 would be a very short period of time before they start writing the reports. But and there's also a lot of studying. I have a huge list of reading material, and I tell them, you need to be spending hours a day reading all this stuff. Mm-hmm. I've been blogging for over 10 years now, and I've gone through every blog post I've written and picked out all the ones that I want my new inspectors to be familiar with. And I narrowed it down to about 300.
Yeah, right.
I kid you not.
I think Reuben has really hit on something important. There is no avenue for the regular inspector to get this kind of training. Mm-hmm. There just is none.
None.
It's a huge plus for multi-inspector firms, even though I would never be one. But I got to tell you, if we don't develop some means of training inspectors that want to be on their own, that at least mimic what Reuben's doing, it's not boding well for the single inspector. Actually.
Charles, amen. I'm sorry to get on a soapbox here, but I get so many requests. I'm the president of my local chapter of ASHI, and I do a blog. So people end up contacting me, and I can't tell you how many people want to know how to be a home inspector. And there is nothing out there. I mean, you can take a 1-week school, 2-week school, or whatever, but you are so woefully unprepared to do a home inspection after that. And then what do you do? What do you train with? How does it happen? There's no program out there unless you get with a company like mine or Chris's, and there's a formal training process. I'll tell you, and I'm not saying this to brag, but the inspectors on my team can inspect circles around so many other home inspectors who have been doing it for a lot longer than they have. I'm not saying everybody, but a lot of them out there, just because they have had such formalized training that they go through for a long period of time. Sorry, I'm done.
No, you're right on the button, Reuben. And I've noticed that I'll have inspection reports that I pull off what other agents sent me. And I'm like, oh man, this inspector has a 4-digit number. In Texas, that means like you're one of the original, the OGs of home inspectors. And they don't even have pictures in their photos, in their reports. And with the formalized training, I know I beat this constantly, but it's about developing that routine for your inspectors.
Mm-hmm. And Chris, since you're a smaller, Reuben, how many guys do you have on your team?
Well, I'll say inspectors, 17.
17 inspectors,
well
guys
played.
And gals. Yeah. So you got 17 folks, and Chris has 4 or 5 coming up.
Yeah, 5 on.
So Chris is going to be, do you do your own training, Chris?
I
Reuben's at a different level. He couldn't.
Right. Yeah, so I'm actually switching just recently, but yeah, I like each individual inspector. They'll ride with me. Reuben has a little bit more detailed inspection training process, which I want to be at that level, and I want to be able to provide that type of training. But my training is they ride with me and do 1 a day, and then I send them home working on the report right away. So I do like the 2 a day, fill them up with as much knowledge as possible. But I feel like it takes so long to develop a really good report. I have them write one a day. I give them my report and all my photos, and I say, go home and copy it. And if they can fix that, go home and copy it, and they start getting that process, it's like ingrained in their brain. They go out there, they do that inspection, and then they go home and they just remember, they have to remember all the parts, and then they type it out exactly like how I have it. And that verbiage just starts getting stuck in their head, and they start being able to talk better through it. And they normally are in my training process about 2.5 months. That's about average. But
so when you've got them trained and you've brought them into the fold and things seem to be going okay, and they screw up, then there's liability insurance. Tell our listeners how maybe liability, does your coverage change? Does your premium change as you bring on new guys?
Yeah, your premiums go up, but honestly, I've never had to file an insurance claim because of I train my inspectors in such a way, they're not going to miss anything big. Like they might miss, I don't know, a weird water stain or, a crack in the wall or maybe something on the back of the water heater, but they're not going to miss something worth tens and thousands of dollars.
Have you compared what your insurance cost is per inspector, Reuben? Can you?
I don't have my insurance company does not charge per inspector. They charge by the number of inspections, and I have no idea what their formula is. They didn't even ask me how many inspections we did last year, I don't think. No, you know what? It's not even inspections. It's dollar volume.
Right.
They charge by dollar volume.
Right.
So we had to tell them how much we had in sales last year. I don't know what that equates to.
Reuben, have you ever given any thought to actually turning your approach into an inspection school for other inspectors around the country? Or?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And in fact, I get so many requests from people who want to come along on ride-alongs. We now have a formalized process for people who want to train with us. We have a set fee structure for coming along on inspections with my inspectors. And all of that money goes directly to my inspector who's doing the extra training.
Oh, that's nice. That's really nice.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Friggin' awesome.
What do you normally charge for someone to ride along?
I have to look on my website, sorry.
Oh, no, you're okay.
I'm kind of removed from it. I hope to set it up. But
I don't even know most of my fee structure when it comes to how much it is per house. I set the fees. I choose to forget about that, and I focus on the task at hand and making sure the job's being done completely and confidently. So I understand not knowing your rates.
No, I got it here. It's at my fingertips. We charge $125 an inspection. And if somebody wants to buy a block of them, we give them a pretty good discount because the number of questions that they're going to have to ask later on significantly goes down after the first inspection.
Now, this would be someone that doesn't necessarily is inroad is to join your company. He is looking to gain knowledge and experience, and is going to allow you to help them do that.
Well, he's essentially paying what he should be doing before he even started.
That's huge.
The whole process, right?
I just had an interview with a guy, and he openly said, he's like, yeah, I want to do my own thing eventually, and can I do inspections on the side? I'm like, no, I'm trying to grow a company here, and you want to go do your own thing. But I didn't even think about it, just being like, if you want to pay me, I'll teach you everything I do.
Right. And I do the way around that.
Say that again, Charles. I didn't hear you.
Well, I do a little bit of that where people come to me and say, look, can I ride along? And I say, sure, find a house, pay me $600 a day, and we'll go and hang out there for 8 hours and tear the house apart. And I actually do a fair amount of that, and it's really, really helpful. They write a report. I review the report. So, because we lack all kinds of ways for people to actually get trained, when are we going to get past the point where we think that the 1 and 2 and even 4 week schools are adequate? It's just not.
Do you guys do your own marketing? Do you allow your other folks, your employees, your partners, to market to the agencies and agents and others, or their time is spent in the field producing reports and checking houses, and you two, Reuben and Chris, do the marketing for your guys? Is that how that works?
Yeah, you say allow, and I might reword that a little bit, because I call that a big part of working for me. Is you don't have to do any of that. I will keep your schedule filled. I'm going to take care of all the marketing and all that. If anybody wants to, God bless. They're more than welcome to. But that's not really something I expect.
So do you think that is one of the attributes of working for someone like yourself, for a company, where an inspector comes online, gets out of the military, he's new, but he doesn't necessarily, he's not cut out to be a marketer, and he would rather work for you and have you do that? That would be a typical, is that a typical inspector in your crew?
Yes, 100%. And I completely agree with Reuben. And it's not allowing to do work for him. It's just a matter of, hey, I wake up, I got my job at 10 and 2, I go do my job. My work's complete before I go home. I go home and I get to watch TV and do my own thing. 100%. That's the benefit of working for a company. It's Sunday and I'm sitting here talking to you guys and I'm booking inspections, and that they don't ever have to worry about that.
So in that same kind of umbrella of attributes for why I want to go work for you, at what point do you think, Reuben, that do you offer retirement packages and insurance and other incentives?
We set up a 401k about a year ago because my employees were asking for it. My gosh, that was a lot of work. And I don't even do matching contributions. It was just setting up all the paperwork to do it. I don't have a retirement plan. That's as close as it comes. Yeah,
I have a 401k and we match contributions. We match 4% to the 5%. It's expensive, but at the same time, like, it's about growing a company where people want to work and feel safe, and they can. I had a really big problem with turnover when I first started, and I've noticed if you have 401k, and my next move is insurance, but I think we have to wait till 2019 because it's bad. Insurance right now is bad.
I think a 401k is that's a great way to retain personnel. Yes.
Yes, I think so. Right now we have not one complaint. Everyone's signed up, so it's nice, and and it's really not that bad. If they match 4%, it's like $50 or $40 an inspector. So, I might lose 4 inspections a month, but I wouldn't even say it's lose because I don't have to pay any of that money in taxes. It all just goes back to my guys. So it's nice.
So when we do the best we can, but occasionally there's a problem and you have to do some cover up. Reuben, how do you handle customer complaints? If an inspector if we had an error in his report, would he help you and do you help them? Do you have them address the issue? How do you handle complaints?
That's something that we have been working extremely hard on as a company over the last year or so, formalizing the entire inspection process, having everything in writing, every photo that I want my inspector to have in their file, everything that they do going through the inspection, down to the point where it's really tough to miss anything. And if you do miss something because you just didn't do what you were supposed to, you were being lazy,
human.
We're at the point where we split the cost. I pay for half and my inspector pays for half. That's never happened before. That's something new we just set up. Otherwise, in the past, I've always covered anything.
So you've never had either of you ever have an instance where there were enough mistakes that eventually you say, "See you later, guy, you're out of here"?
No. Thankfully, I've been able to catch all of that in the training process, and there have definitely been people who didn't make it through the training process. But we're able to weed them out at that point.
But I understand the process for money, but touching the social side of it, when touching the agent, hello, we're sorry. Who does that? Is that you, or is that the boss, or is that the crew?
You remember Pulp Fiction, the wolf? I got one of those on my team now. One of my inspectors is the lead inspector, and he's the cleaner, man. If there's a problem, it goes to Bill. And he is a godsend. He has made my life so much better over the last year.
I could see being at Reuben's level, you do need someone at that point. You know, if you have that many bodies moving, you're bound to get someone that's not happy. I mean, I've noticed whenever I did 400 inspections, I had one. Not that I did wrong, but I did one thing wrong. But whenever I'm clearing 120 inspections and I'm not the one doing it a month, that's whenever it's like, I'm going to have one complaint a month. And it's something small, you know, it's like an outlet wiggles, you know, just something small like that. I'm the one that handles it, and it's about listening and talking to them. And it's just from experience. Yeah,
and not only that, but I mean, what if you had one complaint every 400 inspections? Now that it's not you,
right?
Your other inspectors are going to have one complaint every 200 inspections.
Correct.
Not because they did anything differently than you, right, but just because it's not you.
Right.
So the potential for complaining goes up, and we all know how important it is to establish rapport, get people to like you,
right,
and be there. And those calls just aren't going to come in. But then if it's not you, it's different. So
let me ask you this: has Reuben, went with the number you have, which is above 15? Did staffing change to handle that? Do you have 2 on staff in the office rather than 1? Yeah. Can one staff member handle that volume?
Well, it depends on whether or not you use ISN.
So software helps.
Yeah, if you're using ISN, I mean, I think you could probably have one person doing the scheduling for maybe 7, 8 people. Yeah. We pay her a lot. We pay her both a lot.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If they have that skill, they need to be paid a lot.
Yeah, we pay them very well. They make as much as a lot of home inspectors make.
Wow, that's good.
So what does that mean? I know you guys were you lost me there.
Sorry. Well,
you said she if she's worth that, you pay her a lot. What does that mean?
Okay, well,
explain that.
What I'm saying there is she is just as valuable as one of those home inspectors out there, because
right.
Yeah, she or he. That's a very good skill to sell an inspection, have the person feel confident their inspector is going to show up at a timely manner and they're going to be taken care of. If they can portray that on the phone, it's a very good skill to have. So they should be paid for it.
Yeah, absolutely. There's that. And I don't hire my client care coordinators, the people answering the phone. I don't hire them to answer the phone between 8 and 4. I hire them to schedule home inspections for me to make this happen. And they kind of figure out when they're going to do it and how it's all going to work. And their bonus, which is significant, is tied to sales, comp sales. So they have a big incentive to get those inspections scheduled. And so, you know, they will answer emails at odd times in the evening. They'll take calls on the weekends and answer emails on the weekends. I mean, they'll schedule dozens of inspections over a weekend. I don't make them do that, but their job is to get inspections scheduled. So I pay them a lot to make sure that happens.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice. Yeah. I'd like to sit down with you one day and see that formula if you would ever be willing to talk about it.
I can tell you where to find it.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. Yeah.
So that's a good segue into finding more help. And some of the guys that are listening here on our YouTube channel or on our podcast channel can reach out to these two, Chris and Reuben, in a group that Reuben has started, and along with some other guys. Reuben, can you expound on that a little bit, or is that a personal invitation?
You're talking about the multi-inspector group?
Correct.
Yeah, there's a group that we've got on Facebook for multi-inspector company owners. And it's if you got 3 inspectors or more in your company and you're the owner, you could join that group. find me on Facebook and tell me you want me to add you to the group, and I'll add you in there. But I got to be able to make sure you're there. If you get your Facebook profile locked down and I can't even see where you work, no.
Right. So we have they'll have some screening to go through. So guys, if you're interested and you're in the gear and you're looking for some support, these guys are pros at it. Charles?
Yeah, I just want to say that Reuben brought up an interesting point that needs to be hammered every time we get a chance to do it, and that is that people that want to be parts of these groups on Facebook or whatever, we got to be able to see who the heck you are. If we go to your profile and there's nothing, you got a grayed out face, and
that's a good point to make.
You can't see the photos of your whatever. You can't tell what you do for a living or did for a living. You're not going to make it into these groups.
Right. Or it's going to be challenging for you to be able to manage all of the things that we rightly so demand of you. We have an open while we're on that topic. We have an open group, and we have an inspector only group. So if you guys are listening in again, we encourage you to join. If you're on Facebook and would like to join our group, we certainly welcome you. We have two different types, an inspector only and an open group that has agents and subs and other inspectors and homeowners, and it's a real broad brushstroke there. So we're here to help. What a great topic. We're at the end of our 30-minute thing, guys. Any last moments, any more thoughts? Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, I do one thing. If you want to be a multi-inspector company, just one thing you want to understand is you're going to fail. I mean, you're going to fail, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to fall down. I had very good coaching making my experience, and I was able to fail less, reach out and talk to people like Reuben, myself, even Brian Murphy, my dad, reach out and try to figure out where we failed and try to listen to the advice, because that's where you're going to grow the most. And just accept that you're going to fall down and just keep going. Someone's going to call and complain. Don't give up. I can't tell you how many times I wanted to, but I just kept going, so just stick to it. If that's your goal, stick to it and set dates, times, and just keep going, numbers, and just keep going. Don't give up.
Reuben?
Last thought, I taught a class on running a multi-inspector home inspection company at Inspection World in 2017. That session was recorded. If you're a member of ASHI, you can go on the ASHI website and watch it for free. If you're not, you can buy it for $29 and watch it. If you're a multi-inspector company and you want more information, I promise it's worth the $29. I don't get that. I'm just saying, go watch. Maybe could I give you that link, Gary? You could post it?
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. We'll be happy to put it in the show notes. Go ahead, Charles. Any last?
You only get $20 of that, right, Reuben?
I don't know who gets that money, man.
Yeah, Charles, you want to any last comments?
No, it's been awesome. It's been fun.
Good to talk, guys. For Charles Buell, Christopher Murphy, Reuben, and Gary Smith. Talk soon.